What's
Hi
up?
guys. Hello everyone.
What up? You're not late or anything.
No, not at all. Not just by like a half an hour.
That's the beautiful thing about YouTube as opposed to like traditional TV. Like you can get away with being late here because people are just gonna watch things later. But when you're on traditional TV, man, you got to be right on time.
Or early.
Or they have that big placard up that says technical difficulties.
Right. I did put a message up earlier saying we were having technical difficulties. I do want to apologize for anybody that was waiting, but thank you so much. We do. Cam, thank you.
Yay!
What's up, Cam? Stopping by. I'm currently getting ready to be
nice.
Oh, yep.
This is nice. Yes. Thank you for coming by and saying hi. Yeah,
yes.
we had some technical difficulties.
So we apologize for getting a late start, but tonight is going to be a fun topic because I think it's something that everybody feels like they know what it is, but it really is a lot deeper when you go down the rabbit hole.
As part of our sleep cycle.
That's right. We for those that may not know, we are doing part of we're calling it the sleep series. I want to say this is the third one. Tonight's number 3 in the sleep series. We did apnea last week.
Apnea, and the last one was sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. That's right. Right. So I believe this is number 3. We'll have to go back and look. But this is episode 30 for Hearts of Kyber. And number 3 30? Yeah, we're moving up there.
No, we've been at this for a while, John.
Well, I remember back when we started, I was scared. I mean, I was like, I don't know. I've never stepped out of the comfort zone of collaborating with people before, and here I am.
All right, 30 episodes later,
15 years on my own, and then here I am collaborating with some awesome people.
Well, we love you too, John.
Thank you.
So, Aubrey, what is our topic for tonight?
Yes, what is it?
Well, our topic for tonight is insomnia.
Insomnia. Oh, I'll put the little card thing up. The card is a little bit small. I apologize. You'll probably be able to see it if you have like a nice big TV. But we'll go ahead and have John read that off.
Yes. I apologize. I was the one that made this card for the first time. So insomnia is a common sleep disorder. With insomnia, you may, of course, I hit the button there. That really, you may have trouble falling asleep, or in my case, keeping an image on the screen here. Mm-hmm. Staying asleep or getting good quality sleep. This happens even if you have time in the right environment to sleep well. Insomnia can get in the way of your daily activities and may make you feel sleepy during the day.
So it's a lot like sleep apnea, except it's the exact opposite. You're not
right. It's exactly the same as sleep apnea, except for opposite.
Yeah, except you're breathing in this
one. Instead of having a breathing dysfunction, you just have a sleep dysfunction.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you know.
Right. Dude, speaking of which, I had something happen today that kind of tripped me out, and it kind of goes along with the insomnia because I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember it being part of apnea. Maybe I'm wrong, but I started hallucinating today. Dude, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, like I'm not one that's prone to, just have hallucinations or whatever, but I don't know if hallucination is the right word, but what happened was, so we're in summer school right now, which is all like, it's basically babysitting is what it is. We don't do any real work during school. So in the classroom, I had to help in a different class today. We literally watched 3 movies today. That's what.
My goodness!
For school today,
I'd be like this.
Yeah, well, you guys know I'm having the apnea issues, and I've been trying desperately. So when you're in a dark room for 6 hours,
you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Wait, so that's my studio.
I started having the nods like I'm used to, and I told you guys about. But what was different this time was I heard somebody ask me for something or ask me if I wanted something, and I reached out to grab it, and then I woke myself awake, and there's like nobody in front of me.
So you had an auditory hallucination as well.
It was
visual and auditory hallucination.
Yeah,
and that happened to me twice today and it was right at that kind of like dip where I was starting to go under, but then I was waking back up, and then all of a sudden I heard somebody talk to me or speak to me, and then when I woke up, my hand was literally reached out like I was grabbing something, but there was nobody in front of me. So
do you ever catch yourself nodding off and you imagine yourself holding something and eating it, and you bring your hand to your face to try to eat it, and I've caught myself doing that several times throughout my life, going, "Wait, I'm not even. What am I doing here?" So so yeah, that happens. That happens. What you're explaining happens,
Right.
and it doesn't necessarily have to be because of insomnia.
Right. Hey, I got a machine running right here. I'm going to cut off. I didn't
Okay,
realize it was messed. So give
All
me
right.
just a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
okay. All right. What do you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
no, I've actually done not from the sleep apnea, but I've actually fallen asleep during the day due to my insomnia. I have it very. I had it extremely bad as a child, and I still have it pretty bad as an adult. I have
Oh,
a hard time falling asleep, and I have a hard time staying asleep.
gotcha.
I just don't like sleeping. But then I don't get anything done either, because so it sucks. So yeah,
Sorry about
and
that. I had to
especially
turn something off.
this reminds me of when I used to work in the studio. If I was sitting too long or being inactive, and because of the dim lights and everything, I would start to fall asleep.
Oh yes.
I was working at the studio because I was just watching. Generally, I was just watching my boss do stuff, so I wasn't being active. So because I wasn't being active or actively participating, I would start to fall asleep.
All right.
Gotcha. But yeah.
I'm really excited about some of the videos that we have. We have a lot on the video docket tonight. One of them talks about regular sleep cycles, and they even talk about Europeans and how they do their sleep. But they talked about more of a different sleep cycle than many Americans may be used to. Many Americans were told, you get a solid straight 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep at night. Whereas they have a little bit of a different sleep cycle. And it seems more natural to me because he talks about how your body, regardless of whether you're fasting or you're a vegan, you eat a heavy lunch or light lunch, a lot of people assume that they get that tired feeling right around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon because of lunch. But this doctor is saying that it has nothing to do with it. It has to do with more with natural rhythms and cycles. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah,
That's
if you guys
when
don't
I
mind,
usually
I
get
kind
my
of want to
dips.
get in.
That's usually when I get my dips for that. Okay.
Yeah, well, do you experience those, Aubrey, during the day? Do you have like energy dips at specific times of the day?
Usually about 1 or 2.
Yeah. What about you, John?
Same thing. In fact, I've always said to myself, I've always preferred getting up early in the morning, 5 or 6 in the morning. I'm the best at that period up till about 1 to 2 o'clock. Then I kind of slow down, and then I just got an easier pace during the rest of the afternoon, and then it slows down a little bit more in the evening.
Right.
Yeah, that's if I wake up earlier. If I wake up earlier in the day, that happens. If I wake up, let's say 10 or 11, I don't get those.
All right. Boy Wonder, what time do you wake up in the morning? Boy Wonder, can you hear me?
You can.
I think he says 7.
Oh, 7. Sorry about that. 7. Yeah. So I usually wake up at about 6. And I notice that dip. I get that dip around 10, and then I also get it around about 1:30. But with me, I know that the one around 10 has to do with the fact that we were doing writing at that time, and that's usually just me staring at a kid that's not communicating or just watching them. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you guys don't mind, I kind of want to get to some of these clips earlier. I feel like we got some really good ones.
Yeah, we do. Let me
we'll
get my.
All right, now I'm gonna finagle it. I'm gonna pull all of us off and put John.
For those that are tuning in, we don't have the clips uploaded the typical way, so we're going to be doing them from my YouTube channel here. So if it's a little bit weird,
was my fault.
Moving around, that's what you'll be seeing here. So we're going to start off with Fight Club, a scene from. And rolling. And it does help if I turn the volume up and turn my mic off.
Couldn't sleep. With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy. When deep space exploration ramps up, it'll be the corporations that name everything. The IBM Stellar Sphere, the Microsoft Galaxy, Planet Starbucks.
I need you out of town a little more this week. We got some red flags to cover.
It must have been Tuesday. He was wearing his cornflower blue tie.
You want me to deprioritize my current reports until you advise of a status upgrade?
Make these your primary action items. Here's your flight coupons. Call me from the road if there's any snags.
He was full of pep. Must have had his grande latte enema. Like so many others, I had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct.
Yes, I'd like to order the Erica truffles.
If I saw something clever, like a little coffee table in the shape of a yin-yang, I had to have it. The Klipsk personal office unit, the Hovatrek home exerbike, or the Ohaneshov sofa with the string green stripe pattern. Even the Rizlampa wire lamps of environmentally friendly unbleached paper. I'd flip through catalogs and wonder, what kind of dining set defines me as a person? I had it all, even the glass dishes with tiny bubbles and imperfections, proof that they were crafted by the honest, simple, hard-working indigenous peoples of wherever.
I was holding.
We used to read pornography. Now it was the Horchow collection.
No, you can't die from insomnia.
What about narcolepsy? I nod off, I wake up in strange places. I have no idea how I got there.
You need to lighten up.
Can you please just give me something?
Red and blue 2-in-alls, lipstick red 2nd-alls.
No. You need healthy, natural sleep. Choose some valerian root and get more exercise.
All right. Whoop. All right. Sorry about that. There we go. And let me get my volume back over here. There we go. Sorry about that. Slightly different over here because I have to use my onboard on-screen mixer here to turn things up and down. So sorry about that.
No worries. All right, you want to roll? Let's just roll through the movie clips. I think there's 2 more.
Let's see here.
And then let's just roll through them, and then we'll talk about all 3 on the other side. Does that sound good to you, Aubrey?
Sounds great.
Grooviness. All right, that way I don't have to keep pulling this on and off.
All right. This next one is Moon Knight.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake. Let's start with trying to solve a puzzle. Solving puzzles is a great way to keep your mind awake. Bored with puzzles? Try a book. Reading can keep your mind alert and focused. Imagine being in the story you're reading. Is there an exciting chapter you'd like to be a part of? Just remember, you'll need about 5 hours to keep your natural self. Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake. Let's start with trying to solve a puzzle. Solving puzzles is a great way to keep your mind awake. Bored with puzzles? Try a book. Hello, reading. Is there an exciting chapter you'd like to be a part of? Just remember, you'll need about 5 hours to storytelling.
Next one is Taxi Driver.
"12 hours of work and I still can't sleep. Damn. Days go on and on. And they don't end. All my life needed was a sense of someplace to go. I don't believe that one should devote his life to morbid self-attention. I believe that someone should become a person like other people.
Sorry. That's it for those. So kind of showing some of the effects of what insomnia can have on a person. Those 3 did.
Right. And you know what I thought was kind of
So, back up here.
interesting? Aubrey, do you remember when we did DID?
And volume.
Oh, am I on?
Yes, you are. I
Okay.
apologize. I had to turn back up the volume on my end.
No problem. Aubrey, can you hear
Yes,
me?
I do. I can
Do you
hear
remember when
I-
we
I had
did
my mic on.
DID?
Yes.
What I find interesting is when we did DID, we used Fight Club and Moon Knight, both of those. Now we use different scenes from the movies,
Interesting.
but we use the same movies again for completely different. So I wonder if maybe there's even a link between those. Maybe
There is.
not getting good sleep,
Yes.
or probably people with DID maybe have insomnia.
Well, a big factor I think in some of them is for insomnia is often trauma. So trauma is a factor.
In
So
insomnia?
trauma is also sometimes, yeah.
Trauma, stress, things like that.
Trauma, stress, things like that. Yeah, because trauma causes stress. So
I guess that makes sense. Like if you were coming from a place where you were living in trauma, you probably don't want to sleep much because you don't know what might come at you at any time. I guess that makes sense.
Circadian rhythm can get disrupted.
That's what happened to cause me to have active sleepwalking. My dad's violence towards me and my mother before she left caused my brain to readapt itself to never going to sleep all the way. And while I was sleeping, fully asleep, I would do things to make it look like I was awake. So my dad wouldn't be able to then surprise me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I ended up being an active sleepwalker.
That's
Trauma.
crazy.
Not a sleepwalker, but yeah.
Yeah, in fact, when I was doing the research for this one this week, I was going to ask you guys, if we wanted to keep going with the sleep series, but I was going to say sleepwalking was something I was interested in checking out. So I was going to see if you guys want to do that.
I love
next
that we're
week.
doing this as a series. I think it's great.
It's really, really nice that we're not just simply poking our heads into just one little part of this, because we sleep a great deal of our lives, and we don't really understand fully why do we sleep so much. But it's so important to our health, our mental well-being, and everything, that if we don't get it in the proper amounts and stuff, things go a little bit wrong in our lives.
Right, our longevity, our mental health in our longevity. It's funny, you think, God, if I sleep 8 hours a day, that's a third of my life I'm just throwing away. But really, if you don't sleep properly, you're not going to live probably as long as you could. Maybe you would only live into your 60s. Whereas if you had really good health, maybe you would be able to live into your 70s or your,
I'm planning
or even
to go to
100.
Woo!
Yeah, let's push for it. So what do you guys think about those clips? Aubrey, what say you? We'll start with Aubrey.
Well, it's interesting because watching that clip with Fight Club, it's actually really interesting because that's such a great, touching on the DID, the great foreshadowing that he is having DID, and one of those was he was saying I'm having narcolepsy. I wake up and I go to sleep, and then I wake up somewhere where I don't know, and I don't know where I am.
Dissociative? Is that what is DID?
Dissociative. So for everyone, DID is dissociative identity disorder.
That's it.
And I want to remind you, you can go back our episodes. I don't know offhand which episode it was. Probably would have been about 2 months ago because it was when you were gone, John.
Yes.
It was when it was just
Aubrey.
Aubrey.
I don't recall that subject, but
John,
I'm glad you guys covered it.
Absolutely take a look at it. It's a very
I definitely will. I may have watched it when I got to see who you were first. I'm like, oh my God, I love this young lady. She's awesome. Great personality.
That's why I kept Aubrey around for years, man.
Awesome.
She makes Kyber Cave look good.
Yeah.
I like too that those clips were from very different. I mean, obviously, Taxi Driver. I want to say, was that an Oscar?
Taxi Driver.
I mean, that's a classic
It was.
movie.
Yes, that was from 1973.
From 1990. Yeah, I thought it was 1976, but I was going to say
73. One of my favorite movies.
73. It's a great movie. When
I've
I
never
saw
seen
it for
it.
the first time.
Oh, you should.
It's so good.
It's got a
It's one of Jodie
dark side
Foster's
to it, but
first
it's really
movies.
good.
Right.
One of Jodie Foster's first films as well.
Yes.
Right.
She's only 14 years old in there.
Oh my God, I can't. I mean, even
Wow,
at
is she
14, that
dynamic.
young lady just was nailing her part just so well.
Yeah,
Right.
she's really incredible. So yeah, definitely take a look at it. It's really good. It's a very, very good movie. The music is amazing.
Yes.
And it really it shows this kind of underside of New York, like
Yes.
that you don't really see it. Like it seems like in the 70s, cities was not like necessarily the place to be, and now they're more booming. But back then, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it shows it being grimy, dirty, and all of that
Grimy,
stuff.
dirty,
overall. Yeah, and now if you see, I when I lived in Rochester, New York, I went to Manhattan quite a few times for my business that I ran, and it was no different really than being in San Francisco to me. It was clean, it
Yeah.
was safe feeling, but when you think about it before the 80s and stuff, cities, including San Francisco, there was trash everywhere. There were homeless
I mean, there
people
still
everywhere.
is.
There was
There
just it
still
was
is.
just
But
grimy.
let's be fair, we're getting back there now. If you've
Oh, no,
seen
are
San
we?
Francisco recently.
No, yeah, it's
Oh,
not.
I'm
It's not
sorry
clean.
to hear
It is
that.
not
Oh,
clean or safe
no.
place to live.
Oh
No,
my God,
it's
it's really bad. You know what? We're
even
getting
though
way
it's
off
one of the
topic
most
though,
restricted
guys.
places. Anyways,
Sorry.
what I was trying to say was that was interesting about it though is the fact that he doesn't sleep, and that is usually a precursor to something bigger of a mental illness. Not always, but it can.
Right.
And as you see, as you watch it, you kind of see his kind of de-evolution into madness
Yes,
in a way.
that's a good way of describing it. Yes.
Right.
It's a really interesting place to be. So yeah. So do you want me to give you a couple things?
Well, let's get John's thoughts real quick on this,
Okay.
and then and I don't know if I have any. I'm just interested in
I
yours.
pretty much have
and then
covered
we'll
my thoughts kind of and Aubrey covered them very well. So I kind of was interjecting there with her stuff. So I kind of feel I've got mine out.
Right. Yeah, for that one, it was very interesting to me to be able to pull from such different genres. Another thing that I found very interesting, not that it adds anything to this, but I just because of how much I feel like it's on people's minds in general, like as a world population. There was at least 5 or 6 songs called Insomnia. So there was a lot of musical artists who had written songs that weren't necessarily about insomnia, but a lot of them they're like, oh, they're like love songs and stuff, and that's why I can't sleep. You know what I mean? Do you have one?
That's because artists don't sleep.
Dude.
They've also got a couple of games called Insomnia.
Yeah, that's a game company, isn't it?
Oh, it is a game company.
Cool.
So this tattoo, it's hard to see, and it's I need.
Oh, you showed me that before. Yes, that is.
Yeah,
I
so
thought it was cool.
that's the A. Oops, that's the A and the I there for artistic insomnia. That was the name of my first production company. So yeah, I feel like artists in general feel very close to insomnia. It's something I know at the time when I came up with the name of my company. I happened to be a merchant marine in Alaska, and I was at this little coffee cart, and they had all those magnetic poetry words, and the words they just all happened to be next to each other was crazy artistic insomnia, and I was like, oh, that's
funny.
Yeah, and then so I took that as my company name for my artwork.
That's
but then
cool,
I didn't like how close it sounded to CIA, so I cut off the crazy part and just left artistic insomnia.
Gotcha.
Insomnia is a great
creative
name.
people in general
Thank you.
don't sleep overall. I mean, I myself, I do more inventing or reinventing and repurposing things, and yeah, we don't get a lot of sleep. I mean, look at my phone holder now. It now holds it. It can now be sat in my mount on my I'm constantly coming up with new ideas at 2 o'clock in the morning when I should be sleeping.
Yeah, I hope I'm not messing this up, but I think Benjamin Franklin was one that advocated for people not needing as much sleep as it may have been somebody else, but it was one of the great minds that said
I wouldn't be surprised
as much sleep as we do.
Well, they have done studies actually about sleep, and they say that there are morning people and there are night people.
Yes.
And the problem is that society wants to stuff the night people into, like, we all have to have the same schedule, and it simply is not workable for some people, and that's why some people don't sleep at night. But we are constantly guilted into having the same cycle as morning people.
Yes.
Which is crazy, because then, I mean, I always get my best work done at night.
So, Captain, is that something we're born with? Like, are we born a night person or a day person, or is that like maybe your family environment that you grew up in?
It can be. That's a factor. It's a combination. But for me, like, for instance, myself, as a baby, I was a night person. Like, I would laugh. I was not a crier as a baby. I wouldn't cry. I would laugh at night. I would.
That's kind of creepy.
And my family. I mean, I was happy. I was a happy baby. It was more like I was a happy baby. But
happy babies are creepy. No, I'm kidding.
That's what you always hear in horror movies: is a baby laughing at 3 a.m., like a happy baby laugh at 3 a.m. in a dark hallway.
Well, it's really interesting because my mom and my dad, they would tell me these stories. They'd be like, we would not wake up to you crying. Like, you wouldn't cry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would be like, what? And they would get scared because they're like, why is this child not crying? And then they would come into my room and I'd be laughing.
Wow.
So I was a laughing baby.
That's cool.
That's what they called me. They called me a laughing baby. I
Laughing
was
baby.
not a crier. I constantly smiled. I constantly laughed. That was kind of the whole thing. But
Wow.
they had trouble getting me to sleep even at night. At night, even as a baby. So, but then it got worsened due to trauma.
Right.
So,
right. So let's hear some of
I was in
these
trouble.
fun facts that you got.
Okay, so some of the fun facts is that Insomnia. Let me pull this up. Pull it up here real quick because I have this sheet on here. So one of the really interesting things I found out that 70%. Let me get the actual.
Hey, by the way, are you looking at a website? Can you, if you are, would you mind citing your sources so that we don't?
Yes. So I had it here. So I was looking at Healthline, and it says 1 in 3 people have insomnia. Or at least they have brief insomnia symptoms. Now this is from Healthline. It's called Insomnia Facts, Statistics, and You, and it is about 1 in 3. It's 70%, or 1 in 3 people suffer insomnia. And then 1 in 10 of those people that suffer, mild insomnia or regular insomnia, 1 in 10 of those people have chronic insomnia symptoms.
Oh, wow.
And 75% of adult people ages 65 and older have insomnia symptoms, and 20% of those are preteens have insomnia symptoms.
Wow.
Yeah. And it is, so here's where it's even broken down further from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine reports that when it comes to insomnia among adults, 30 to 35% have brief symptoms of insomnia, 15 to 20% have short-term insomnia lasting less than 3 months, 10% have chronic insomnia disorder, which occurs at least 3 times per week at least 3 months. Now, there are people even more than that, longer than that like me, who have had it for years. I have chronic insomnia.
That would definitely be chronic.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I have. I never sleep. That's really the problem. I sleep. My average sleep cycle is about 3 to 7 hours generally. Sometimes less than that. Sometimes 2 or 1 hours.
Oh, that's about where I'm at. Yep.
So before I started having all these breathing issues and these apnea issues, which, by the way, just to let you guys know, I got a doctor's appointment today. It's unfortunately not until September, but I finally, because, as a man and middle-aged man, it's sometimes hard to put your own needs out there and take care of your own thing. But I need to take care of a lot of things, and unless I face it and figure out what the doctor has to say, there's no way for me to get better. So just want to let you know I did that today. However, what I was going to say is before the whole sleep apnea thing, and when I was younger, I used to have I would stay up for almost 2 days. I think it was about 36 hours. So I would go 36 hours and then I would fall asleep for 8 hours, like a normal 8 hour. But I didn't have the same sleep cycle other people did. Like I stayed up longer, but to get the same amount of sleep. So I didn't necessarily know if that was insomnia because it was that's just how I was. You know what I mean? Like at 36 hours, that was when I was tired enough to
that
crash
happens
and get
to me
a
all the time.
Yeah.
I'll say I've gotten 4 hours of sleep in the last the last 3 days. I've gotten 4 hours of sleep. Woo! So it's fun. So yeah.
But I'm sure that's got to affect you. It affects you when you're trying to do things during the daytime, like mentally. Doesn't it make you feel groggy?
Yeah. When I get close to my crash, because there's always a crash that happens.
Yeah.
Yes, I do feel very tired. That's pretty much the only I feel low energy. Sometimes I'll get migraines
at near the crash, but not during.
Not during. I mean, and they're not manic phases. This is not about having manic. It's different.
I know about mania.
I don't
Trust
feel
me.
any different. Yeah, I don't feel any different, or I don't go into periods where there's euphoria or anything like that. So it's just literally the insomnia.
So it's not associated with bipolar type of things.
No, I don't have bipolar. It's not.
That's what I get to
Literally,
experience.
yay, not fun.
But I haven't experienced a a bipolar episode in years, so I'm very proud of
That's
that
good.
because I
I'm proud.
maintain
I'm
my
proud.
medicine and I pay attention.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
it's yeah, so that's one of the things that is normal. Yeah, when I was in school, it did cause a problem because I'd have to get I would
Right.
finally get to sleep, and then I'd have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would go through this serious crash thing. I would crash during the day, right after lunch, like you said, and it would be so hard for me to stay awake. And so I would read. I would take books that I was reading, and I would put them behind my science book. And it got so bad that my teacher would come and take away my books before his class
Right.
because that was how I could stay awake. And then I
Right.
would just have these huge crashes.
It's
And
so
then I
hard
would
that you
fall
have to
asleep.
lay down and actually go to sleep.
Right. You know,
Yeah, no,
it's very interesting to me. I hadn't really thought about it until now, but you know, like I think as adults now, there's a lot of people that will say, no, you don't have the choice because I know that there's a lot of people that are like career minded people and, you know, they've been in the same job for 15 years and that's, you know, that's where they're going to end up dying is from that job. I have been the type of person where it seems to me, and I didn't even really think about it until we started talking about it now, but a lot of times in my life, I found jobs that suited my lifestyle and not the other way around. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of people change their lifestyle to suit their job. But I didn't think about it, but even now I'm starting to do that, right? So I bought this truck with the intention to get out on the road and get to more cons. But my goal is to basically change careers, right? Stop being a teacher and start doing these cons more because I'm having to adjust my job around my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I can't have sleep apnea and be a teacher in the classroom. But if I've got 5 or 6 days to get to a con, I can just mosey across the country or take another person
as long
with
as
me.
as long as you're doing it carefully. Yes.
Exactly. So, you know, I know not everybody feels like they are in the position to change their lifestyle or to change their job around their lifestyle. But, you know, if you're more of a night person or something like that, maybe you can find a job where you can work graveyard shift.
That's what my dad did. My dad did exactly that. He was a night guy. He worked a graveyard shift for years.
Right.
And it
And a
worked
lot
out
of
good for
times,
him.
people don't want those. So a lot of times you get better pay on the graveyard shift than you do on the
You
day
get $1 or
shift.
$2 an hour more. I mean, heck, why not?
Right. So I mean, if you're an insomniac, that could be an example of you changing your career around your you know around your insomnia. Another thing, you know, not that anybody ever, you know, like I want to be a store clerk when I grow up, but you could work at a gas station all night long, you know what I mean, or a 7-Eleven or something like that. If you
Stop and go, woohoo!
You know what's really interesting is that
Do they
even
still
though
have
we
those?
show clips that have men as being the insomnia sufferers, actually women suffer insomnia more. We're
Right.
actually 80% more likely to suffer insomnia than men.
I did not realize that. Do they still
I
have
know. I
Pogos
think
out
that's
there?
really interesting. So
Right.
that was something I learned in my research. That was an interesting fact. That I learned.
And you know, just because you brought it up, the reason we see more and the reason we have those video clips is because Hollywood tends to be more male-dominated storytelling than right. So, yeah. But when you look at the science of it, really, it sounds like women deal with it a lot more.
And there's a lot of
do.
factors. A lot of it, they think a lot of it's hormonal, like when women are pregnant or going through menopause or puberty. That actually has a big role in the insomnia.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So I would rely on noise to help me fall asleep. A lot of people use sleeping pills, use melatonin. It's very interesting, and those are not always helpful. Apparently, sleeping pills are actually not helpful for your circadian.
I can't take sleeping pills to save my life.
Neither can I. They don't
That's
work.
why I went to the melatonin thing. I'm like, oh, that works, and that seems to. I take like 2 of them if it's just mild, and then if it's really bad, like last week it was really bad where I stayed up 28 hours. I'm like, fine, I'm going to take 4 of these little things, and then it took 1 extra. Because they're only 1.5 milligrams of the melatonin in each one of those little things. So it's very gentle. It's not like I'm taking it like I had ones that were 10, and whoa, those knocked me on my butt for a day and a half. But these ones are gentle. I can dial them up, dial it down, and then after I took that, I haven't taken them again for now. Well, I'd say over a week now, and I've been going to sleep just fine without them. It kickstarts the melatonin in.
Shall
But
we
not the
watch
dopamine.
some? Shall we go through the next 3 videos?
Yeah. Oh, right. Let me move these screens around. Give me a second here.
All
Let me
right.
get my screen
can
up here,
remove
so
us.
I'm knowing what the.
All right, you get a break here, Boy Wonder. Oops, wrong one.
All right. This next one is a 2-part. It's a cartoon-like clinical thing to show what causes insomnia. I know that possibly my name there is blocking some of the information, so I'm telling you what it is. What Causes Insomnia by Ted Ed. All right.
What keeps you up at night? Pondering deep questions, excitement about a big trip, or is it stress about unfinished work, an upcoming test, or a dreaded family gathering? For many people, this stress is temporary, as its cause is quickly resolved. But what if the very thing keeping you awake was stress about losing sleep? This seemingly unsolvable loop is at the heart of insomnia, the world's most common sleep disorder. Almost anything can cause the occasional restless night, a snoring partner, physical pain, or emotional distress. And extreme sleep deprivation like jet lag can throw off your biological clock, wreaking havoc on your sleep schedule. But in most cases, sleep deprivation is short-term. Eventually, exhaustion catches up with all of us. However, some long-term conditions like respiratory disorders, gastrointestinal problems, and many others can overpower fatigue. And as sleepless nights pile up, the bedroom can start to carry associations of restless nights, racked with anxiety. Come bedtime, insomniacs are stressed. So stressed, their brains hijack the stress response system, flooding the body with fight, flight, or freeze chemicals. Cortisol and adrenocorticotropic hormones course through the bloodstream, increasing heart rate and blood pressure, and jolting the body into hyperarousal. In this condition, the brain is hunting for potential threats, making it impossible to ignore any slight discomfort or nighttime noise. And when insomniacs finally do fall asleep, the quality of their rest is compromised. Our brain's primary source of energy is cerebral glucose, and in healthy sleep, our metabolism slows to conserve this glucose for waking hours. But PET studies show the adrenaline that prevents sleep for insomniacs also speeds up their metabolisms. While they sleep, their bodies are working overtime, burning through the brain's supply of energy-giving glucose. This symptom of poor sleep leaves insomniacs waking in a state of exhaustion, confusion, and stress, which starts the process all over again. When these cycles of stress and restlessness last several months, they're diagnosed as chronic insomnia. And while insomnia rarely leads to death, its chemical mechanisms are similar to anxiety attacks found in those experiencing depression and anxiety. So suffering from any one of these conditions increases your risk of experiencing the other two. Fortunately, there are ways to break the cycle of sleeplessness. Managing the stress that leads to hyperarousal is one of our best understood treatments for insomnia, and good sleep practices can help rebuild your relationship with bedtime. Make sure your bedroom is dark and comfortably cool to minimize threats during hyperarousal. Only use your bed for sleeping, and if you're restless, leave the room and tire yourself out with relaxing activities like reading, meditating, or journaling. Regulate your metabolism by setting consistent resting and waking times to help orient your body's biological clock. This clock, or circadian rhythm, is also sensitive to light, so avoid bright lights at night to help tell your body that it's time for sleep. In addition to these practices, some doctors prescribe medication to aid sleep, but there aren't reliable medications that help in all cases. And over-the-counter sleeping pills can be highly addictive, leading to withdrawal that worsens symptoms. But before seeking any treatment, make sure your sleeplessness is actually due to insomnia. Approximately 8% of patients diagnosed with chronic insomnia are actually suffering from a less common genetic problem called delayed sleep phase disorder, or DSPD. People with DSPD have a circadian rhythm significantly longer than 24 hours, putting their sleeping habits out of sync with traditional sleeping hours. So while they have difficulty falling asleep at a typical bedtime, it's not due to increased stress. And given the opportunity, they can sleep comfortably on their own delayed schedule. Our sleeping and waking cycle is a delicate balance and one that's vital to maintain for our physical and mental well-being. For all these reasons, it's worth putting in some time and effort to sustain a stable bedtime routine. But try not to lose any sleep over it.
Sorry.
31 celebrities that have insomnia. All right. So there you go.
Wow. I noticed there
Volume
seemed
back
to
up?
be a lot of entertainers, politicians, and inventors on that list
Yes.
of
Mhm.
insomniacs there.
I want to point out, whoops, I forgot to bring
Put your
myself.
picture back up there. You're much
Okay,
prettier
what were
to
you
look
gonna
at.
what were you gonna point out?
I was going to point out what you were describing, young lady, is that you have the tilted one where you're able to stay awake longer and get up later in the day and stuff and go
Yeah.
and you. That's exactly what you have. My sister had that. My
Yeah, in fact,
brother
it's
and
like so
we
tilted. It's almost
yes,
the
you are
opposite.
basically about 8 hours or so off or whatever it is from where everybody else kind of sleeps. And like you said,
Thank you,
you
bud.
do get shamed. It's like you got your friends bugging you. Beep beep. Where are you? We're going on. We're going here. We're going there. What? Oh, I need to get some sleep. I was up last night creating some music and doing this. Well, come on. You're not tired. Come out with us. It's kind of like when you say I'm sick. Oh, you're not that sick. Come on, let's go.
Oh, I've had that, yeah. But now I'm like, okay, I've had 3 hours of sleep.
No,
let's
really.
go.
I got
Do this.
corona. I got COVID here. Oh, come on. You don't have that much COVID.
No,
Right,
mine is I've had 3 hours. I'm good to go. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good and loopy.
And that video for me actually helped explain what I guess I dealt with, which was it sounds like another form of insomnia, but they were saying the delayed sleep, the DSPD,
Yes.
the delayed sleep
DSPD.
cycle. That sounds exactly like what I dealt with. It wasn't that I couldn't sleep; it's just that my sleep cycle was way off
It's
from a
different
typical.
than what most people's are, or it may not be even that it's most people. It might be about 50-50 when you think about it. It's just that society, like you said, Aubrey, forces us into this construct that we have to wake at 5 in the morning, go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night.
Farm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's because of farming practices. Yeah, it's because we were mostly an agricultural society, and then we started shifting from that. So you're usually up at 5 in the morning down to sundown, or
Yep.
at 5 p.m. or whenever sundown happens, and then you're supposed to go to sleep and start all over again. That even went back to feudalism. So it's very
Oh, yes.
interesting how the forced, but these are natural things. So when they say it's delayed circadian rhythm or delayed sleep cycle, it's really just that we have a different brain that works.
Exactly. Your brain is wired different.
Yeah, one thing I noticed with the celebrities, I noticed that some of them took off some of their things for the resume. Like Jessica Simpson she's also a singer. Michael Jackson was actually also an actor too. But it's really interesting that they took
Yes.
those off
Right.
of that. Really fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting videos. The first video, what did you guys get? Do you guys remember that? It was the longer one.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one where I was saying I was very surprised to find out that there was a name for what I dealt with, because it wasn't just standard insomnia.
That is really interesting. Absolutely. I think it is, it's a standard, but I thought also it's very interesting when they said not only do some people have delayed circadian, but they have that fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
That
Yes.
happens. And that really does happen. It's
Yes, it
hyper
does.
arousal. That actually absolutely does happen, because that happens to me all the time.
Right, which then
Really?
changes the
And so that happens to you,
chemicals.
John.
The chemicals in your brain, and they showed that diagram where it was like the pyramid, and I know anxiety was at the top, sleep
Yes.
was on one side, and I can't remember what was on the third side, but he was saying having any one of these factors increases risks in the other two. I know they said like heart disease was another really big issue that people that don't get good sleep can deal with, and I could see if your body's
depression cannot.
Dude, it's so freaking crazy. I freaking love this show, guys. Like, I feel like every time we do different topics, I learn more about my own, like, what's going on with me. You know what I mean? But it totally makes sense, right? If I have sleep apnea and I'm falling asleep and I'm not getting air and my body jolts me awake, that is sending, hormones to my brain that's the fight or flight you were talking about,
Yes,
right?
danger. Something's wrong.
Exactly, which would then make it harder to go back to sleep, because now you're in the defensive mode.
Like there's a Decepticon on your chest.
Yeah, sound right, baby. It totally makes sense to me. Do we want to roll out those last? We have a couple more that kind of talks about what you can do if you're suffering from insomnia. What are some things that you can do to make life better?
Give me a second here. I'm going to recenter, because I always try to recenter this thing so it grabs the entire video. I'm noticing that it's just grabbing a little bit of the edge there. That's just an ADHD thing of mine, probably, or OCD.
Should we agree on sleepwalking for next week?
Let's do
Sleepwalking? You got it. So I'm just going to
one's
get this
gonna be
loaded while we're talking here, and I'm just going to get this thing recentered so it's not cutting off
And
things.
I'm going to get us all
And I'm
situated.
going to find out what layer you're on. And
while you are tuning in, thank you for watching Hearts of Kyber. We appreciate you coming out every Tuesday night. Remember, we are not medical doctors, any of the three of us. We are just people that are passionate and interested about different disabilities and challenges that people deal with. Please make sure, if you are not a part of our Discord, join the Kyber Cave Productions Discord. We also have a Patreon where for just as little as $1 a month, you can help this channel grow. We always have new content coming out. We currently do brand new programming 7 days a week. That is crazy. And all of us have like real job, like 9-to-5 jobs too.
Not me.
Not me. Most
I'm
of us.
fully disabled, man. I just live off the system.
So make sure you can help us grow and bring you more content. Miss Captain has a fantastic show that is waiting to come out soon. We're putting the finishing touches on. Cannot wait to preview that. But on top of that, we have other shows too. You know what show I've been thinking about lately, guys? I've been thinking about doing one on my own. I was thinking about, because I only know a few people in other countries, but I've been watching a lot of these channels about like what Europeans think about Americans or what New Zealanders think about Americans and
Oh, I
what
love
they think
those.
is good. I want to do just a show where like every week I talk to somebody from a different country.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Sounds fun.
And just
How
find
would
out,
you
you know,
feel?
like what the differences between their country and our country, and what they think of ours from the media. I'm gonna look really stupid though because I don't know crap about crap. I am your
What's
typical
really
American.
interesting is watch like there's historical, like watching history not from the viewpoint of America but from another country.
Yes.
That is so fascinating.
I love doing that stuff.
And I know it's so interesting.
I've been watching, what is it, the
different
Planet
perspectives.
series this week?
Mhm.
Or Planet Earth series again. And I'm just like watching I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so much stuff that you don't think about going on in the wild and
I
stuff.
mean, there's so much that
Oh.
that went on that actually in school we were not taught. It was
No,
really so
tons.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had the
How do we get this
FDR.
far
I
with
didn't
our
know anything about
educations?
Henry Wallace. I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about Henry Wallace. Like, and how could we? How he was the first vice president of FDR, and he did so much for our country.
Yep.
And we learned nothing about him.
Yeah, I learned
Sorry,
nothing
that was
about
just
my
a
great
tangent.
great uncle, who was the first black senator.
Oh, that's really cool.
So you can see why a lot of Europeans think Americans are stupid, because not only do we not know our own history and culture, we don't know anything about other people. A lot of Americans, when they tour, they expect people to know about America, but they don't know anything about the country that they're visiting. You know what I mean? They expect the people of that country to bend to them. I'm saying
Yeah.
there's
I'm
a
the
lot
reverse.
of so there's
I
a
will
lot
learn
of
about where I'm going and then go there and embarrass myself speaking their language.
I'm starting to see on YouTube, and I don't know. This is kind of why I want to do this
I
video
love
series.
the show idea.
Thank you.
I love the show idea. I think it's really great.
I heard that like 20 years ago, when we were more dominant, everybody, that used to be the dream, was to come to America. Everybody wanted to come to America, but America's perception has changed, and not everybody feels the same way about Americans now that they used to be. You know what I mean? We used to be the home of opportunity and all that, not, gun violence and, whole different thing. Anyways, that's just my idea for a new show that I want to do.
Sounds good.
Can I add on to here real quick there,
Yes.
Van? Yeah. So if you want to become a caver, splunker, and a cave dweller, please go sign up on our Discord, sign up on our Patreon. Also, please comment on what our conversation that we are talking about. We love seeing your comments.
If you've experienced any of this stuff, chime in with it. It is a discussion. It's not just us talking.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason that we do this live, to be honest with you guys, is so that people can comment in and we can have a discussion together. This is not our show. This is our show.
Yeah. Hopefully inclusive of
everyone is invited.
Right. I saw Chris do this too. Look, I'm making Chris do exercises. All right. Wax on, wax off.
All right.
Wax off. Okay.
All right.
Oh, oops, sorry, Chris.
Look what you did.
That was my bad. That was my bad. I hit the wrong button. All right. Oh,
hey,
okay.
Thomas. Hey,
Thomas. What's up?
Welcome, my friend. All right.
Thomas, I hope you will join me tomorrow for gaming. It will just be me by my lonesome self.
No.
Please join me.
All right, so we're going to go on to the last little set of videos here.
Yes.
And this is how to make your life a little bit better. We do have one clip that's broken into 2 parts, but I think it's very interesting. I think you'll get a lot out of this. So here we go.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah, that'll be this Joe Rogan one that I'm going to show here. This is called Sleep Expert. Well, as you can see here, the title's kind of scooched over because it was longer. Joe Rogan, Sleep Expert. There are 2 people talking back and forth about this, and this is a 2-parter. We're going to start it off here with this first part. I think this is the first part. All right, here we go.
What should someone do if they have a hard time sleeping? Like, say if you're a person who has insomnia, you have a hard time getting to bed, you have a hard time staying asleep. When you wake up, you can't go back to bed.
Yeah.
Are there strategies?
There are. I mean, I think for most people, there are 5 things that you can do just out the gate to get better sleep. Regularity is probably the most important thing I can tell you. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, no matter whether it's the weekend, weekday. Regularity is key. We've spoken about light. For example, when you, in the last hour before bed, try to stay away from screens, but also just switch off half the lights in the house. You would be surprised at how soporific that is. It really starts to sort of make you feel a bit more drowsy. They've done some great studies where they would take people out, into the Rockies, no electric light, no electricity whatsoever. And they started to go to bed 2 hours earlier than their acclaimed natural bedtime. It wasn't just because they didn't have anything necessarily to do. It was that their melatonin was rising, 2 hours earlier. So keep it dark. The third is probably keep it cool. Your brain actually needs to drop its temperature by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. And that's the reason that you will always find it easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold than too hot.
I've seen people use cold pads.
Yeah.
Have you seen those? You sleep on these cold pads. What do you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is pretty good that cooling the body actually works. They've, in the book, I write about a series of studies where they had people in, it's almost like a wetsuit, but it has all of these veins running through it. And they could actually perfuse warm or cold water into any part of the body, hands, core of the body, feet. And so that you could exquisitely manipulate the temperature of any part of the body. And what they found is that they could effectively cool the body down, and it instantaneously made people fall asleep faster, and it gave them deep non-REM sleep, that sort of restorative sleep for the body. So, and you can even look at studies where people sleep semi-naked, and that also seems to improve their sleep, and they get a little bit more deep sleep too. So cold is better. The paradox here, though, is that you need to warm your feet and your hands to kind of charm the blood away from your core out to the surface and radiate that heat.
Really? So you should go to sleep with socks and gloves on?
Yeah. Or better still, have a hot bath. Evidence here, too, that I discussed where people say, I get out of a hot bath, I feel nice and toasty, I'm relaxed, and that's why I fall asleep. It's the opposite. When you get into a bath, you get vasodilation, you sort of get rosy cheeks, red skin, all of the blood rushes to the surface. You get out of the bath and you have this massive thermal dump of heat that just evacuates from the body. Your core body temperature plummets, and that's why you sleep better. So you can hack the system very easily.
Wow. So your core body temperature plummets, and that's what makes you sleep easier.
Yeah.
That sounds so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
And it makes sense because that's how we were designed. If you look at hunter-gatherer tribes whose way of life has not changed for thousands of years, and you ask, how do they sleep? One of the things that seems to dictate their sleep is the rise and fall of temperature. Temperature is at its lowest in the nadir of the night, 3 or 4 in the morning. And as that temperature, that climate temperature starts to drop, that's when they start to get drowsy, as if temperature is just sort of signaling to the brain, now it's time to sleep. So light as well as temperature are 2 key triggers to help you get better sleep. If you look at those tribes, by the way, and when they go to sleep and they wake up, they go to sleep probably at 2 hours after dusk, sort of 8 to 9 in the evening, wake up about half an hour, even an hour before dawn. It's the rise in temperature rather than light that triggers their awakening. Wow. But there's a reason, have you ever thought about what the term midnight actually means? Middle of the night.
Right.
And that's what it should be for all of us. But in modernity, we've been dislocated from our natural rhythms. And now midnight has become the time when we think, I should check Facebook last time, I should send my last email.
Yeah.
That is not how we were, designed to sleep. And in fact, we may also be designed to sleep biphasically too. If you look at those hunter-gatherers, they don't sleep one long bout of 8 hours at night.
Yeah, I've heard this recently, that you should have 2 sleeps. The idea of 2 sleeps.
Yeah, it's actually a little different than the idea of 2 sleeps. So there was a time in sort of the Dickensian era where people would sleep for the first half of the night, maybe sort of 4 hours or so. Then they would wake up, they would socialize, they would eat, they would make
Really?
love, and then they would go back and have a second sleep. If you look at natural biological rhythms in the brain and the body, that doesn't really seem to be how we were designed. It certainly seems to be something that we did in society, but I think it's more of a societal trend than it was a biological edict. However, we do seem to have 2 sleep periods the way that we were designed. Those tribes will often sleep about 6.5 hours, 7 hours of sleep at night. And then, especially in the summer, they'll have that siesta-like behavior in the afternoon. And all of us have that. Sort of this, what's called the postprandial dip in alertness, just means after lunch. And if I measure your brainwave activity with electrodes, I can see a drop in your physiological alertness somewhere between 2 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
But is that dependent on diet?
It's not. People think it is, especially after they've had a heavy lunch.
Yeah.
You can actually just have people fast and sort of, fasting for long periods of time actually makes your sleep much worse. But you can have people abstain from lunch and you still get that drop. So it's independent of food. It's a genetically hardwired, pre-programmed drop that suggests we should be sleeping biphasically.
But is that dependent upon their standard diet? Because if someone is on a carbohydrate-rich diet, a lot of times you do get that spike and then you crash. But when people are on low carb and high fat diets, they don't get that, and they tend to be more even with their energy through the day.
Yeah. So yeah, that sort of more constant release of energy can actually help you sort of almost combat that lull.
But that lull exists no matter what.
Exactly.
So even if you don't think it exists, it's there.
It's still present.
Interesting. Yeah. So why did they do that in the Dickens era? Why did they? What is there a root cause of their double sleep thing?
We don't know. I mean, it's hard to sort of really go back.
Fascinating.
It's
that was a trend.
Yeah, that it was a movement.
That they would just wake up and do things, and
maybe
it's because they didn't have TV. And they didn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah. Well, sounds like they did some pretty interesting things, which were nice. But yeah.
Our first tip is to wake up at the same time each day. It is tempting to sleep late on weekends, especially if you've had poor sleep during the week. However, if you suffer from insomnia, you should get up at the same time every day in order to train your body to wake up at a consistent time. At number 2, we recommend to eliminate alcohol and stimulants like nicotine and caffeine. The effects of caffeine can last for several hours, perhaps up to 24 hours, so the chance of it affecting sleep are significant. Caffeine may not only cause difficulty initiating sleep, but may also cause frequent awakenings. Alcohol may have a sedative effect for the first few hours following consumption, but it can then lead to frequent arousals and a non-restful night's sleep. If you are on medications that act as stimulants, such as decongestants or asthma inhalers, ask your doctor when they should be best taken to help minimize any effect on sleep. At number 3, we recommend to limit naps. While napping seems like a proper way to catch up on missed sleep, it's not always so. It's important to establish and maintain a regular sleep pattern and train oneself to associate sleep with cues like darkness and a consistent bedtime. Napping can affect the quality of nighttime sleep. At number 4, we recommend to exercise regularly. Regular exercise can improve sleep quality and duration. However, exercising immediately before bedtime can have a stimulant effect on the body and should be avoided. Try to finish exercising at least 3 hours before you plan to retire for the night. At number 5, we recommend to limit activities in bed. The bed is for sleeping, and that's it. If you suffer from insomnia, do not balance the checkbook, study, or make phone calls, for example, while in bed or even in the bedroom, and avoid watching television or listening to the radio. All these activities can increase alertness and make it difficult to fall asleep. At number 6, we recommend to not eat or drink right before going to bed. Eating a late dinner or snacking before going to bed can activate the digestive system and keep you up. If you suffer from gastroesophageal reflux or heartburn, it's even more important to avoid eating and drinking right before bed, since this can make your symptoms worse. In addition, drinking a lot of fluids prior to bed can overwhelm the bladder, requiring frequent visits to the bathroom that disturb your sleep. At number 7, we recommend to make your sleeping environment comfortable. Temperature, lighting, and noise should be controlled to make the bedroom conducive to falling and staying asleep. Your bed should feel comfortable, and if you have a pet that sleeps in the room with you, consider the pet sleeping somewhere else if it tends to make noise in the night. At number 8, we recommend to get all your worrying over with before you go to bed. If you find you lay in bed thinking about tomorrow, consider setting aside a period of time, perhaps after dinner, to review the day and to make plans for the next day. The goal is to avoid doing these things while trying to fall asleep. It's also useful to make a list of, say, work-related tasks for the next day before leaving work. That at least eliminates one set of concerns. At number 9, we recommend to reduce stress. There are a number of relaxation therapies and stress reduction methods you may want to try to relax the mind and body before going to bed. Examples include progressive muscle relaxation, perhaps with audio tapes, deep breathing techniques, imagery, meditation, and biofeedback. And for our final tip, we recommend to consider participating in cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy helps some people with insomnia identify and correct inappropriate thoughts and beliefs that may contribute to insomnia. In addition, cognitive therapy can give you the proper information about sleep norms, age-related sleep changes, and help set reasonable sleep goals, among other things.
Wow. Info dump.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It definitely felt like an emerald. It's really funny because actually a lot of those things that they said not to do actually helps me to go to sleep.
Same here. I can play audio. Like I have a noise app where I could play train. I grew up across the street from a train track. Okay, literally just across the street from me, same level as my bedroom. It was up, and so I got used to having train sounds. And there was always the San Francisco airport where there's planes in and out of and stuff. So you just kind of get used to that stuff, and you kind of need that sometimes. Where I live now, it's so quiet you can hear a pin drop.
Yeah, with me, when I was growing up, my mom was a merchant marine, so she would be gone to sea for several months at a time. And my stepdad worked nights at the C&H factory here.
Oh, wow.
In Crockett, yeah,
The sugar factory.
exactly.
Yeah,
For
wow.
those from the San Francisco Bay Area, it's a famous little landmark.
Yeah,
that you
C&H
know
sugar.
from.
Yep. Very
Anyways, so I was home alone all night from like my dad would leave at like 9 at night and he came home at 7 in the morning. So by the time I had to get myself up and start getting my day going, because I had to get ready to leave for school by about 7. And then I was home alone all night, while my stepdad and my mom was out to sea. So that was one of my tips or my tools, was to have the radio going. And I couldn't sleep when it was quiet because I would hear all these noises in the house, these little creaks and cracks. And, as an 11-year-old kid, get freaked out. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
That was just the time period we were living in. Everybody was a latchkey kid. But so because of that, that was how in fact, I remember pissing off my college roommate because I used to go to sleep every night to the soundtrack to Nightmare Before Christmas.
I love that
so
soundtrack.
funny.
Love that movie.
I did lots of different ones. Yeah, to help me fall asleep.
Right. So yeah,
mainly Lord of the Rings, which nobody was happy with.
I think when he was talking about people being out in nature, and especially like the hunter-gatherer tribes and stuff like that. But I do seem to remember, like, when I was younger and I was camping, maybe if there's people here watching that are campers, maybe you may be able to chime in on this a little bit more. But he was saying that the rhythm of your body kind of goes with nature when you don't have the external things, because a lot of times people will still bring a radio with them, or some kind of music to play, so that's going to throw you off from nature's rhythm a little bit. You know what I mean? But I think if you were to live by nature's rhythms, you wouldn't. I think your body would probably get used to it, as opposed to needing the sound of traffic or raindrops or whatever.
Like, I've gotten used to the quietness here over time and stuff, but it's weird to go from where you're living, where I'm used to living, right next to a busy street that's constantly connected to the El Camino and Highway 101. I mean, I lived on Poplar Street back in San Mateo there, and that connection was constantly busy 24/7. So there was trucks constantly crashing into the stupid bridge that was at the time 12 feet off the ground and things like that. And then cars and stuff, and then you got, of course, the families that live in the courtyard of in your apartment building. So you just get used to noise. Then when you come to someplace where you actually live, where there's just natural nature sounds, birds, What is this weird, strange sound? What is that?
It's like eating a salad.
Yes.
After a diet of Cheetos.
Yes. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, but the thing that there was some at the cooling bodysuit, I was like, oh man, where do I get me one of those?
I know. Tell me about
Right?
it. I was like, dang.
But it's funny because I actually have to sleep with this room temperature has to actually be a little higher than normal
Yeah.
for me to sleep, and that has to do with allergies actually. So unfortunately, it's kind
so
of
you have. Well, I mean, that's part of the morbid comorbidity, having multiple factors and different things. So yeah, I find it's so funny because with all the things that I'm now starting to understand that I'm dealing with, you know what I mean? Like I realize, okay, I need to do this to change this, but that affects this piece over here. So now I got to figure out a way to do this, and you know what I mean? So
yes.
I'm getting older.
I like the idea though. Poor Robin. Where'd he go? I love the idea though of like taking a hot bath before you go to sleep. Also, I have noticed that exercise does actually play a huge factor.
Yes, it does.
Like my insomnia has gotten pretty bad, but I think that's also because my exercising has been really off balance. So I need to get back into doing it more regularly.
That's one reason why I talk about like one of my big activities during the spring, summer, and fall is getting my butt out of the house and rolling around town for up to 16 miles. It's like, I mean, Jody's funny. She's like, why don't you just bundle up this year? If you get that chair a little bit late, you just go during the winter and let people see your butt rolling around town during the winter. I'll be like, yeah, then I'll be complaining if it snows and there's snow on the ground. I'll be like, commanding the town, get it out of the way for me.
Forget that. I don't need death on top of this.
Yeah. And she's like, you take your speaker with you. I'm like, you don't understand having that big old 205 watt or 10 watt speaker behind me. Let's cars hear me coming. Yes. You'd be surprised how often I got hit by a car once. In my
really?
Yep. I had the speaker turned way down. I was crossing over, and a kid that was driving, I was crossing just in front of him, and he started off and pushed me out of the chair, caused one wheel to pop off the rim. And I'm like, oh, I didn't get hurt. The wheelchair was fine. And it just scared me more than anything. I got angry for the moment, but then after a few minutes, I apologized to him for yelling at him. I said, it was an accident. He didn't mean it. And it was cool. Nothing was hurt. So, but yeah, I got hit by a car once because I had my speaker turned down. And it was funny. I turned that bad boy to maximum and I turned it up to max. Whatever I'm playing, it's like rolling around. People at least then look my way and see my butt rolling.
So we John and I used to joke like that it's funny how a lot of the the cures or the things that you can do to help make your symptoms better for a lot of these diseases, they always come down to the same three things. It has to do with your nutrition, your exercise, and your sleep, right?
And breathing.
Breathing. Don't forget to breathe. Yeah.
So we don't mean like normal breathing. We're talking about that deep breathe. Hold it for about 3-4 seconds, then you release it in about that same amount of time. Then hold it for a different amount of time, then release it. If you have a smartwatch or if you have an app on your phone, you can actually get one of these things that walk you through that de-stress thing, and it will teach you basically a way of how you can bring things down, and it releases endorphins into your body, which are really good, feel-good things. That go into your body, plus a bunch of other feel-good chemicals. I don't know the name of everyone, but it makes you feel good. It basically rewards you for doing something positive for yourself. And after about 5 or 6 the deep breaths like that, you will have a hard time trying to think of why you were so stressed in the first place. Just because you're feeling so good from it. You're just like, I remember my martial arts teacher. He was directly from Japan, Mr. Cahill. Oh man, this guy was awesome. He taught us all these various different techniques, massage techniques, breathing techniques, all sorts of neat stuff. And I use that stuff to this day. And boy, I tell you, it's got me out of more things than I can ever imagine. But breathing, huge thing. And I don't mean just your normal breathing. But this is really a good topic today.
It's a great topic. Are you kidding?
It's something that affects so many people.
It does. And like we said before, if anybody in the audience has experienced insomnia, talk about it if you want, if you feel comfortable. If not, that's cool. But we want this to be inclusive of you also feeling like you're a part of this whole thing too. It's not just us up here talking about
us.
Right.
We just have
Exactly.
no shame. We'll just share whatever, Just kidding. Just kidding. I
Yeah.
don't.
All right.
I don't know about the rest of them.
So on that note, we're a little bit long. We're only 15 minutes long. That's cool. We did
Yeah.
start late though, so
Yeah,
it
we
is
did.
later for some people than other people. So let's get this wrapped up. Next week, I think we have decided sleepwalking is going to be our topic. So if you are
Yes.
tuning in, we will still be doing the sleep series. I don't know how many more we have on this, but like I feel like I didn't really realize how many different topics there were under sleep until we started
so
opening the door.
They're a lot.
And I mean, again, when we talk about all the other things, they always say that sleep is one of the most important things you can do, right? Well, I guess that makes sense that there would be so many different disorders and diseases and other things. Can you please stop, Zayo? Disorders and other things that would be associated to sleep. God damn it. I'm sorry, Robin. I don't know why I keep hitting that button. So it makes sense that this could be such a big topic. So next week we will be back with sleepwalking.
Zombies, better known as. Yes. We'll talk about zombies.
Sleepwalkers. Well, zombieism is a very different thing than sleepwalking.
Oh, I know. That's what
Sorry,
happens when I hit
that's
pain level
my
9,
that's
9 and a
my
half.
literalism coming into play, guys. Sorry.
You're so fun. I love that.
All right, from the hearts of Kyber Crew, we want to say, Mezzo, we love you.
Hey,
we are happy you
glad
are
you're
home
Mezzo, and
safe.
your family's home and safe. Yep.
And for everybody else in the audience, we love you too. Thank you for tuning in and supporting this show. Today is Tuesday, so the next show tomorrow morning. Is Mezzo? Wait, is that going to be you, Ari? Are you on tomorrow for Mezzo?
It.
Huh?
I'm on tomorrow. Instead of Mezzo, it'll be me.
Woo! So yeah, so I always like to announce whatever the next show coming up is. So tomorrow is at 10 a.m. Make sure you come and hang out with Captain Lady Moon as she gets down on some funky video games. All right,
I'll
y'all.
probably play some more of Ghostwire Tokyo. So
all right, there you go. Now you know. Peace.
Peace.